I love looking at this, and then I love looking at Jesus doing this. Jesus, as he crossed over to this other side of the lake, he does it at night one time. Now, two things about the Sea of Galilee. One, storms could happen in this place, especially because of this massive mountain on each side. Winds can come down and within minutes can cause unbelievable storms. Storms that they say have higher waves than sometimes even on the oceans. So there's a lot of people that have died over the history in the Sea of Galilee. So it was considered to be an evil thing. It was considered to be something that the people were afraid of. The second thing we see here in where I want to look at is in Matthew chapter 4. It tells us there that it was evening. And at evening is really dangerous to do anything, let alone go on this lake. Nobody traveled when it was dark in the evening. It was time to settle down and the sun went down. So I want you to get into this with me because it's so cool what is happening here. Chapter 4, Mark, verse 35. And when evening had come, he said to them, let's cross over to the other side. 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 I mean, that's what it's like for these guys. They're like, what? Did I hear what he said? It's night, and we're going to cross this abyss. That's what it actually is called in Luke. In other places, you could actually translate this as the bad side. That's how they looked at it. This was the bad side of the lake. You had nothing to do with it. That's why they had these pigs there, because they were raising them, but they always had them there as a way of keeping the Jews who were kosher from coming over to their side of the lake. It didn't bother Jesus, though. And it didn't bother him to take his disciples. So here he is. You can just see it. It says, as the boat is pulling away, you can see, that the storm is kind of stirring. Actually, in verse 37, it says, and a great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat. I mean, here they are when they're leaving. It's not a storm, but I can just imagine it. The sun's going down. The guys are all in these little boats. They were just little boats. And they're starting to go away. They're slowly moving away. They're going out into the abyss. They're going out to where Beelzebub lives, according to the traditions and fears. And notice what happens. In verse 37, the great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, so that it was already filling, but he was asleep in the stern on a pillow. And they awoke him, and they said to him, Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing? They're just like, some of these guys are fishermen even, and they're totally freaking out. They're bailing this water out of the boat, is coming in quicker than they're bailing it out. And finally, they wake him up, and in verse 39, then he arose and he rebuked the wind, and he said to the sea, Peace, be still. And notice what it says. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. So you can imagine, they're just, tossing and turning, and waves are going over the boat, and get them out of there, and they're trying to get them out, and they're looking back, and Jesus, he's floating around, probably on the pillow, And they're thinking Beelzebub, because the only sign of Beelzebub we've ever found is a tattoo of a bull, and Beelzebub is riding the bull with a lightning bolt. So there's lightning going on all over the place. And they turn around, don't you care, we're going to die. And I see Jesus stand up. Peace be still. he said to them, "Why are you fearful? How is it that you have no faith?" And they feared exceedingly and said to one another, "Who could this be, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" And so here they're realizing Jesus Christ is God. In Mark 5, verse 2, it says, "And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with chains." Check this guy out. Had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken in pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. Now think about this. Just outside of the town, you got this guy. You got to worry about your kids. You know? Okay, you can go out and play, but not further than the yard, you know? You can imagine, it says he howls at night. You can imagine them all locking the doors and shutting the windows and hearing him out there. You know, and they're just thinking, man, you know, this guy's crazy. And here he is, coming to Jesus, you know, and you see Jesus, he just goes, "Would you stop that?" And he goes, "I'm sorry. Has anybody got any clothes?" Could you imagine that happening? That's exactly what happened. When they all come out to see what is going on, it tells us they saw him sitting at the feet. Where is it at? In verse 13. "And at once Jesus gave them permission. Then the unclean spirits went out and entered the swine. There were about 2,000 of the herd, ran violently into the steep place into the sea, and they drowned in the sea." In Luke, the same story, it says they drowned in the abyss. Pigs were a Satan animal of Baal. It was a part of their worship. It had nothing to do with anything the Jews did. You were unkosher if you even touched one. But what I want to point out is in verse 5, chapter 5, verse 14. "So those who fed the swine fled and told the city and the country, and they went out to see what it was that happened. Then they came to Jesus and saw one who had been demon-possessed and had a legion, sitting and clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who saw it told him what had happened, he had been demon-possessed, and also what had happened to the swine." And in verse 17, they begged, it says they began to plead with him that he would depart the region. It's kind of scary when a whole people group doesn't want anything to do with Jesus. And this is really what I want to draw all of this down to right now, is just the world that we're in right now today. I mean, we literally are in the last days. If not the last hour, it's the last seconds. And the Lord encourages us in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 with the rapture. And he encourages us that all of these signs mean he's coming back after us. But yet we have a job to do. The only reason he hasn't come back yet is there's still people he's after. Our neighbors, our families. You know, guys like this guy that nobody goes to and nobody helps. You know,